Hey y'all, Biohack here. The other day I recorded a video showcasing Quintus the Triumphant in PvE, and we talked about all the different places he could be incredibly strong in PvE content in the game, in particular due to his passive ability, which causes him to deal max HP, 10% max HP against targets which have buffs. But in today's video, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about Quintus from the lens of a PvP champion. Like we talked about in the last video, Quintus has been absolutely review bombed by the Krakens who originally unlocked him, giving him terrible ratings across the board, which he absolutely does not deserve, including a 3.4 in arena offense, which is an absolute shame because this is an S tier champion and he is capable of taking down some of the strongest teams in the game. So today we're going to go over his kit. We're going to talk about what exactly makes him so powerful and how to use him properly in mostly live arena, but I'll show you a little bit of classic and a little bit of 3v3 as well. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around and let's jump into the kit overview. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into his kit. Again, we're taking this through a PvP lens. The first thing to talk about is his A1 ability. What it reads is attacks one enemy, places an extra hit if the target has no buffs, and if this attack is critical, it repeats the attack once. That means if you crit the target and they have no buffs, it is a quad hitter A1, and the multipliers on this ability are absolutely nuts. Each hit has, I think, about a 2.25 multiplier or something like that, and across 4 hits, it means that it's adding up to something like a 9.5 multiplier. If you don't know what that means, champions that are considered to hit really hard often have things like a 6 multiplier. So having a 9 is absolutely nuts. This ability smacks so hard if the target doesn't have any buffs and you crit them. It's an absolute cannon of an A1. It's a really nice addition to his kit, but it is not the ability that defines his kit. The ability that does that is his A2 right here. There's a lot going on, so let's start off simple and read the first part where it attacks one enemy. And then before it attacks, it removes all buffs, then places a 60% decrease defense debuff on the target for 2 turns before attacking, and these effects cannot be resisted or blocked. So part of the reason why Quintus has been absolutely review bombed by the Krakens that first unlocked him is they read this ability and they assumed that this meant it was going to strip Stone Skin. It does not strip Stone Skin. It has a 50-50 chance, just like any other buff strip, and it can't be resisted, so you can use it on high resistance Stone Skin champions and still have a 50% shot of stripping it, but it is not a guaranteed strip of Stone Skin. And that was kind of why people rated him really poorly. They thought they were going to come in and strip a Stone Skin UDK and one-shot him and open up the team to, you know, do other things, and then it didn't work. And the reality is that Stone Skin UDK is kind of one of the best counters to Quintus precisely because it doesn't have this guaranteed chance of stripping Stone Skin. So a lot of people went and did those fights and they took him in against Stone Skin UDK, his strongest counter, and he didn't perform very well, and then they just absolutely trashed the champion. And that is just, quite frankly, using him completely wrong. This ability is really useful in a lot of cases, and I'm going to show you a lot of fights where it comes in really clutch. This first part here can serve a few different purposes. In live arena, for example, well, for one thing, it's essentially acting as a guarantee ignore 60% defense, right? Like, people have said, like, oh, he doesn't have any ignore defense in his kit. Yes, he does. He literally reduces their defense by 60% at the start of the fight, and as long as they're not under Stone Skin, he's going to land it every time, and he's going to ignore 60% of their defense. That is absolutely wild. He does have ignore defense in his kit. Furthermore, you're going to see some fights in live arena where his decreased defense goes up on the target, and he might not kill it, but it also allows your second nuker, because usually in live arena, you kind of have to run 2 nukers so that one doesn't get banned. It allows your second nuker to also come in and hit against that decreased defense target. Of course, it comes with the limitation that it is susceptible to polymorph, but it's a single target ability, and usually what you're trying to take down with Quintus are things like Harima, Rhodos, and Taurus, which typically are not the most common champions to be running polymorph. You see it from time to time, but you know ahead of time whether that's going to be an issue for you or not, and it's still only, you know, one ability, so in live arena, sometimes you just have to take risks. So anyway, this is a very, very strong part of his kit, and we'll show you, even as a support champion, he can be very useful for this. But what really makes his kit is this next part here. Damage inflicted by this skill cannot be decreased by enemy passive skills or masteries, except by the passive skills of bosses. Damage inflicted by this skill cannot be increased by this champion's masteries or ally passive skills except when attacking bosses. So he cannot have his damage decreased by enemy passives, and he cannot increase his damage by his own passive. It also resets the ability on his A3 if he kills a target. This is what makes this ability so good. This means that you can go in and you can hit a Taurus, and that 50% damage mitigation from the Taurus passes will do absolutely nothing to stop Quintus. He will smack him super hard. Furthermore, he's going to put that 60% decreased defense on him before he smacks him with this ability, which means he's going to hit even harder. That decreased defense ability, I mentioned he takes down Harima. Harima's passive causes her ignored defense abilities to hit basically only work 50% as well. However, that does not apply to the decreased defense debuff. So that is why he's so good for also taking down Harima, which is a strong benefit to this champion when we compare him to what is probably his closer counterpart later in this video. I want you to keep that in mind. This 60% decreased defense makes him really good for taking down Harima, even if we're not blocking the ignore defense from her passive. The other champion that I really like to bring Quintus to take down is Rhodos. Obviously, Rhodos has part of his passive where he can't be hit for more than 50% of his max HP. So a lot of times I'll be running, say, a Georgid in live arena, and they'll bring in a Rhodos to counter me. And what I do is I just bring in Quintus, going slightly faster than the Georgid. Quintus comes in, kills the Rhodos first, and then that gives free reign to the Georgid to use his A3 or his A1 or his A2 or whatever, and not risk triggering the Rhodos passive and the counter attacks and extra turns that would give him. So Harima, Taurus, Rhodos, those are the main things that I bring Quintus in to take down, but those are some of the most common meta nukers in the game right now. So the fact that he has excellent matchups against all of them is super beneficial. Okay, let's finish talking about his kit. The next part is his A3 here. The problem with this ability, honestly, well, let's read it and then we'll talk about the problem. Attacks all enemies, so it says only AoE, places a 50% increased attack and a 30% increased damage buff on this champion for 3 turns before attacking, and resets the cooldown of his A2 if it kills an enemy. The biggest problem with this ability is that it doesn't hit very hard. It has pretty low multipliers. I think the multipliers are in the like 4 to 5 range, which is pretty bad for an AoE attack. However, it is still a decent cleanup. So most of the time, the way I use this ability is we kill, like, say, for example, a Rhodos, and then we, do some stuff to the team, and then it gets revived again. Well, oftentimes, right after they get revived, they're not sitting there at full HP, they're squishier, that kind of thing, and the A3 can come in and sort of clean up everyone after you've kind of already taken them down once. And actually, that one particular example pairs very well with his passive ability here. His passive ability increases this champion's skill, or each time this champion's skills deals additional, each of this champion's skills deals additional pure damage. The amount of pure damage is equal to 10% of the target's max HP for each buff under them. So I talked about a scenario where you take down a Rhodos with the A2 ability, and then maybe it gets revived by a Duchess. Well, a Duchess revives with 70% HP and 2 buffs on the target, the Perfect Veil and the Continuous Heal. So what you can then come do, say it's a Rhodos, hit him with the A3, this will drop his HP by 50%. The passive will then deal the other 20% thanks to the 2 buffs, and you can kill a Rhodos that has just been revived by a Duchess, even though it's only a single target hit and he has more than half his health. So that's probably the most common place where his passive actually comes into play in PvP. Other than that, it can just be a nice damage boost in certain scenarios. But really, a passive is super strong in PvE against targets with buffs, bosses with buffs. But it doesn't have a ton of play in PvP. His aura is a 35% increased attack in arena battles, which can be kind of nice depending on what you're doing. So yeah, nothing to complain about there. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the build, and then we'll start looking at actual showcases. Actually, real quick, before we talk about the build, I want to talk about something else, which is the comparison of Quintus to Ronda. Quintus is, in my opinion, a very strong champion, but whenever I point out the kind of things that he does, people always just like to tell me, oh, Ronda is better. And so here I wanted to go and talk about Ronda's kit and how the two are related, and how I think Quintus is generally stronger than Ronda, although Ronda is stronger in certain matchups. So if we go over Ronda's kit, I mean, it's a very, very similar thing. And in fact, I think they did this on purpose. Because Ronda is a limited champion that you cannot get anymore in the game, and because she's so critical to taking down some of the most meta nukers in the game, I think the idea with Quintus is they really needed to make a champion that could do and fill the same role as Ronda for people who are not going to be able to get Ronda in the future. Think about how annoying it is that new players cannot get Ninja, and he's like one of the strongest champions for things like Sand Devil and things like that. And it really sucks that like the best in slot champion is no longer available to players. I think they were trying to avoid that same situation with Ronda when they put Quintus into the game, because they fill very, very similar roles. So if we go over Ronda's kit, I mean, it's very similar to Quintus in that it's a very hard-hitting A1. That being said, Quintus hits harder than Ronda. His A1 just does. Well, okay, if Ronda only procs all 4 of her hits and Quintus only procs like 2 of his hits, then it's pretty close. But if Quintus procs all 4 of his hits, he's hitting way, way harder than Ronda. But they are kind of similar. Strong hitting A1 champions. Ronda's A2 is kind of the defining ability of her kit. Attacks one enemy 3 times. It ignores shield and 30% of the target's defense. Quintus, on the other hand, doesn't just ignore shield, it ignores all buffs because it completely strips everything off the target first. Of course, it can only strip things that can actually be stripped, so it won't ignore bolster set. So that is one benefit that Ronda has, is that she ignores shields, but Quintus ignores everything that's not protected. She ignores 30% of the target's defense. He puts a 60% decreased defense before he attacks. How this actually works in terms of all the math, it kind of depends. They end up actually being pretty close to ignoring about the same amount of defense, depending on sort of like what other things proc, like Helm Smasher, and if you have them in, I'm assuming you're going to build them in Lethal or whatever, or Savage. So these are actually fairly similar, but this will get mitigated by Harima's passive very heavily, whereas Quintus' 60% decreased defense absolutely obliterates Harima. It's so good at taking her down, or if it doesn't take her down, for example, if you run into reaction, it leaves her sitting there with a decreased defense, which absolutely eliminates her damage in a big way as well, so that she can't do anything even if she does get a turn. Okay, so then the next part of the kit is the block the passive skills debuff for 2 turns before attacking. It can't be resisted, and blocks active skills for 2 turns before before attacking. It also can't be resisted. So essentially, like, this is working very, very similar to Quintus's kit, right? Quintus ignores the passive damage mitigation. Ronda blocks the passive. However, there's some very, very important differences in how this works that I think makes Quintus generally a better champion. For one of them, it's that this only works if there's no block debuffs on the target. If there's block debuffs on the target, you're absolutely screwed. And that can be a big problem a lot of times in live arena. For example, if someone's running a very fast Siphi, you might be running a team that can counter the fast Siphi by going right after it and then turn meter boosting, locking out, that kind of thing. But if you try and bring Ronda after the Siphi goes first and you're doing a cut-in strategy, it's not going to work because she won't be able to block the passives of something like a Taurus or something like a Rhodos. Well, Rhodos she hits 3 times, so it doesn't matter. But she won't be able to block the passives of something like a Taurus or a Harima to actually come in and shut them down properly, whereas Quintus will just buff strip and do everything that he needs to do. So that's probably the main limitation between these. She does have a 3-hitter, which is kind of nice, but the fact that she's very shut down by block buffs is also a big problem. Again, this ability also does not hit as hard as Quintus. He has better multipliers and he has higher base attack. It's not a huge difference, but he does have higher base attack and he does have higher multipliers, so he's going to hit harder on this ability as well. And it also, he's going to hit way harder on something like a Harima. And in addition to that, he's also a void affinity nuker, not a magic affinity nuker, so he doesn't have the same potential to weak hit that Ronda does. Ronda's A3 is again sort of like her cleanup ability, where it's a 2-hitter on the A3. So I feel like it's really important to mention this, because I do feel like these two champions are very, very similar. They're essentially designed to do the exact same thing in arena, And so like I said, a lot of people will say, oh, just bring Ronda, not Quintus. Ronda is better. Ronda is good in some situations. The block passive is really nice for shutting down Marichka, for example. It's really nice for shutting down Wukong. But it has all these other limitations that I think, depending on the fight, Quintus might be better or Ronda might be better, but more fights, Quintus is going to be better, and he's going to be the safer option because of that. Also, you'll see things like his A3 being reset, which has a big impact on his kit as well. So I thought I would just mention that, and then throughout this video, I'm going to be pointing out scenarios where Quintus is able to do his job very effectively, where Ronda would have completely failed. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump back into the Quintus build. Okay, so how do we have Quintus built? We'll go ahead and check out his stats. I have him in, first off, set is lethal and crit damage. Cruel would probably be better than crit damage, but I have some nice crit damage pieces with very high speed rolls. And the way I have him built is I have him built at 258 speed. This is important because he's built slightly faster than my Georgid, so that in that scenario where I'm running up against a Rotos who's been counterpick against my Georgid, I can kill the Rotos first and then have Georgid go after. So that's why he's got this speed. And then for live arena, since that's the main content I'm interested in, having your nukers be very, very fast is super important. So his damage is a decent, but it's not amazing. It's 6,882 attack, 258 speed, and 260% crit damage with 100% crit rate. You will notice I do have a little bit of resistance. This is kind of an accident, but it doesn't hurt to help eliminate the chance of polymorph against certain targets. I've been using him for a few weeks in Gold 3 Live Arena, and I don't think I've been polymorphed ever. I might have been polymorphed once, so it's pretty rare because most of the time people don't run polymorph on their nukers, and he is single target in his buff strip, but a little bit of resistance doesn't hurt. I didn't go for it, but I just got it on an accident. He doesn't need accuracy or anything because his abilities can't be resisted or anything like that. And I also do not have a blessing on him just because I've never got one and I prioritize other champions. It would be great to pick something up. I think probably Soul Reap would be fantastic. He often deals in teams where you kill the target and then they revive. So things like Life Harvest could also be really nice, so that as soon as they get revived by a Duchess, for example, he gets a big turn meter boost. He decreases their max HP, and then he can come in and A3 and clean up. I don't hate that idea either. You could also run things like, obviously, where is it? Phantom Touch is going to be really nice because it has a chance to proc based on the number of hits, and he does a lot of hits on his A1, so things like that. There's a lot of a lot of blessings you could use, but I don't have any of them for this showcase. In terms of his masteries, I have him set up like this. Let's move that over. These are pretty standard nuker masteries. I do have him in Shield Breaker just to deal with bolster sets. It helps a bit. I don't know, you could maybe run this instead. I don't know, it's up to you. He does, like I said, strip if it's not bolster. Everything else is just sort of like all your kind of like main first hit nuker abilities. Cycle of Violence is nice to help with cooldowns and things like that, but you know, the big thing is Helm Smasher here. In terms of the defense tree, you know, we just went kind of down standard stuff. He doesn't really need anything from the accuracy tree, so just a little bit of defense mitigation. This retribution ability is pretty nice. If he gets 50%, loses 50% of his HP, he'll counterattack. That's pretty good because his A1 hits so hard. You could go for deterrence. I find that most of the time deterrence ends up trying to attack Mithrala when he has a Hex on, and it gets your champions just petrified over and over again. So I don't love deterrence, but you go for it if you want. All right, that's his masteries, and now I want to start showing you some actual battles. While we go through this, I want you to keep in mind a few different scenarios and compare like how Ronda would perform versus Quintus to see exactly why I think he generally performs better than Ronda. So the first one I'm going to show you is a classic arena fight. I'm not a huge classic arena fan, but let's go ahead and jump into that. All right, so we've got this fight here in Classic Arena. Now, I'm not a plat-pushing player. I don't really care that much about Classic Arena. However, I do watch a lot of videos, and it's my understanding that this is one of the most common defenses in Platinum Arena. It's a Marichka, Sifi, UDK Taurus team, and I'm going to show you how I can take it down using Quintus in particular. Now, one of the issues with this team, and one of the reasons why Ronda can't do the same job that Quintus can in this fight, is if we have a really fast Sifi here, even if I'm faster than the Sifi, if the Sifi is quick and I go Arbiter Lockout, the Siphi is going to A1 the Quintus and put it to sleep. So if we have a fast Siphi, I cannot lock out on the first turn. I need to use the Warlord block debuffs or use its A1 so that Quintus, or so that Siphi uses her A3 ability and puts up the block debuffs and the increased defense and all that kind of stuff, so that we don't end up with Quintus being slept. What that means is that Ronda wouldn't be able to do the job on Taurus because she wouldn't be able to block his passives, and so she wouldn't be able to deal enough damage. However, Quintus doesn't have that problem because he can completely buff strip the Taurus before he goes in and does his ability. So the idea behind this team is that Arbiter's going to go first. We're going to see what the Siphi does. I've done this fight, so I know what it actually does. But we're going to see what the Siphi does, and then we're going to either A3 or A2 with the Warlord. We're going to sheep the UDK, and we're going to one-shot the Taurus with the Quintus. And then once we're going to take out the Siphi, and then hopefully while it's still under lockout, then we're going to take out the Marichka and take out the Taurus after we take out the Marichka. So let's see if we can get this fight to go down and see if it works out like I envision. All right, so here we go. What we see that we have is we have slow Stone Skin on the supports, including the Siphi and the Marichka. So we know that Quintus is going to go before Siphi, so there's no reason for us not to just use our lockout. So we're going to come in here. We're going to lock out with Warlord. That's going to trigger the counterattack, but he's in Stone Skin, so it's fine. Then we're going to sheep the UDK, which we land, and then Quintus is going to one-shot the Taurus. And what you might have noticed there, but you'll definitely see when we kill the Marichka, is just how low the Taurus's HP got right there. So we might as well buff this again. Actually, I probably should have saved that for after we killed the Marichka. We'll just come in here and do this. It's going to take a second. We'll try and play this quickly, I guess, so we can get some idea of how long it's going to take. Land the block debuffs on the Siphi. That's really nice, actually, because that means that we're going to be able to smack her really hard with Quintus. So we'll put up the block debuffs right here. I'm not sure I should have done that, actually. But we'll go ahead and stun. Okay, and now you can see how hard Quintus A1 goes. So we have no buffs. I guess we didn't actually kill anyone there. Damn, tanky team. All right, either way, that's fine. We'll just keep going here. Can we get the Quintus to go again before the rest of the team? We can. We stun the UDK. I don't want to use his A3 yet. I want to save that, so we'll just come in. There we go. And then... Ooh, do we want to use the lockout? Maybe we save the lockout for a second. This fight's going to take a minute, but that's fine. Come in here. Let me get the buff strip. We want to save the sheep. Let's see. Do I have enough time? Yeah, let's go ahead and take out the UDK like that. Hopefully we can get that ability back. I'm just going to save lockout. We don't need it right now. We're going to save the turn meter boost on the Arbiter as well. We want to save all of this stuff for after Marichka revives everyone. Okay, can we come in? Slowly, 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 slowly. All right, we're just going to A1 cycle. A1 cycle. Come on, come on, come on. All right, Quintus. Okay, so Quintus takes out the rest of the team. Look at this. This is what I wanted to point out. Look at this Taurus's max HP. Because we didn't actually block the passive, we just mitigated the damage mitigation portion of his passive. He revives with basically no health because Quintus, because of that, like, he takes 50% of his max HP in the passive. So we're going to come in here. We're going to hope that we can push some turn meter back. We do. Let's see. We'll just go ahead and buff strip. We take out the Taurus. Let's come in here. Should we A3 or A... Let's just A1. Okay, so you see we took out the Siphi even despite the UDK. This fight isn't exactly fast, but I've also been talking during it. Oh, I probably shouldn't have sheeped him right there. Oh, that was my mistake. Actually, you know what? He's going to wake up before, so it's fine. And then we will one-shot the UDK. Come on, Quintus. Yeah, Could have sped this up a little bit if I played it faster. But you get the idea. There we go. We took out the, you know, the ultimate super powerful Marichka, Sifi, Ultimate Death Knight, Taurus team by using Quintus. And like I said, if the Sifi is a fast Sifi, he can still do it when Ronda would fail because he can buff strip the Taurus before he goes. And because he doesn't block the passive that mitigates the Taurus damage, it means that when the Marichka revives him, he basically has no health. And I think he died even to the supports. We didn't even need to kill him with Quintus because of those supports. And so that's another, like, you know, super meta team that Quintus can help you take down. And another way where he can actually far surpass Ronda in the same sort of role in the team. Okay, so the first fight I want to show you is actually one from one of my live arena videos a few days ago. And what we're going to see on this team is exactly what I'm talking about, where Quintus is able to perform against teams where Ronda would absolutely fail because of those block buffs. So in this team here, we're running up against, this is a 4,000 player, so a fresh gold 3 player, but they've got a 6-star Sifi, fully awakened, and Rhodos Harima Duchess, and they're running Wukong. I'm opting to ban the Wukong here because I'm afraid of him banning my Arbiter and then getting to go before I'm able to take my turn. And I know that if I let the Sifi go first, there's no real other turn meter boosting on this team. So because Sifi provides fairly low turn meter boost, I'm going to be able to cut in after the Sifi goes and takes her turn. And because I'm using Quintus, not Ronda, I know I can block the passives and deal with the team that way. So we're going to let this play out, and you'll see how the fight goes down. We'll go with the Wukong ban. Okay, cool. So we banned the Warlord. I think that's fine. I think what we do is we kill the Harima with Quintus. We kill the Sifi with Georgian. We're actually going to see it go down exactly like I thought. Look, I go before the Sifi, but because I don't have any other turn meter boosting, because he banned my Warlord. Normally I would go Sifi Warlord lockout, but he banned the Warlord, and we brought in the UDK to deal with the Rhodos. So we're gonna watch the Sifi go, and she's gonna put up the debuffs or the block debuffs. And so this is exactly what I'm talking about. Trying to take out a Harima right here with a Ronda would be incredibly difficult because she's not going to be able to block the passives, and this Harima is going to have increased defense. And on top of that, Ronda is the wrong affinity. But when you watch Quintus, we're going to strip and kill. Boom, no problem, easy one shot. Then we watch Georgia take out the Sifi, and then take out the Rhodos. And then watch, we're gonna get the revive right here. Come in with the. This is a really close fight. Oh wait, no. I probably shouldn't have stripped here because I should have saved the Quintus A3 to kill the Rhodos. That Veil buff that I just stripped actually was probably going to help me deal more damage than otherwise, but you'll see how it works. Wrong play, actually. Does it matter what we use here? Who has polymorph? Sifi. Sifi's the only one, and she. Screw it. Okay, she resisted. Nice. So, do the Quintus. This moment is really important right here as well, because we took down the Rhodos right there with the Quintus A3. And what the Quintus A3 killing Rhodos does is it means that we reset the cooldown on his A2 ability. This is another scenario where you're going to see in a second where we would have been absolutely screwed if we had Ronda on the team instead of Quintus. So let's watch the rest of the fight play out. Okay, we failed to with the Harima. Harima just hit the UDK. Georgia should still go. Oh, shoot. No, but the Georgia, she can only revive Rhodos. So Sifi still has her revive, which is a major problem. I was afraid he was going to revive the Rhodos, but he's actually smart. They hold back the revive, and they're going to use it on the Harima, and we're going to see how this goes down. But we'll watch the rest of the fight. So they're going to A1. The decreased attack on the Georgian's annoying, but should still kill Harima, and that's the main thing we need to accomplish. Yeah, let's buff strip again. We'll go ahead and buff strip. Okay, so Georgia, well, here, we'll let Georgia do his thing. He's going to A3. And this moment right here is so critical. We have to kill this Duchess right now, and I realized this after I did the fight, and while you're listening to the commentary, I maybe didn't appreciate it. We have to kill this Duchess right now, because what's going to happen is this Sifi. Actually, to be honest, no, I can't take down the Sifi, because the Sifi is under Veil, and that's what I was forgetting. The Sifi is sitting here under Veil, and it's going to revive the Harima with max turn meter and take down my team. If I don't take down Duchess this fight, or this turn, and then this fight is over. If I was using a Ronda right now, I'd be sitting here trying to hit here. Let's let this play out. I'd be sitting here trying to hit into a Duchess with a block debuffs, an increased defense, all this stuff going on, and all I would have is a Ronda with no increased attack and an A1 ability. But because we use Quintus A3, we got the increased attack, and we reset the cooldown on his A2, and that's what's going to let us kill the Duchess. Taking me a minute to figure it out. Let's just color. And then this is our worst case scenario right here.
She's gonna revive the Harima.
We figure it out.
Shoot.
Fortunately, we've got unkillable on Georgia.
Okay, we're still gonna be able to pull this off. This might not be the end of the world, because we've got the Georgid under unkillable.
The rest of the video is just why Georgid is awesome. There we go. Good job, Georgid.
Cool.
Okay, and now the Georgid is basically going to kill the Sifi, and that's the end of the fight. But you can see multiple instances where several pieces of Quintus's kit allowed us to win this fight when we absolutely would have failed it if we had tried to use Ronda instead. So yes, Quintus and Ronda fulfill a similar role. Yes, Ronda is a really good champion, but Quintus still comes in and can be much better in certain fights. And so if you're going to give Ronda's rated like a 4.8 in Arena right now, and Quintus is a 3.3. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that most of the time, Quintus is a better champion than Ronda, and he absolutely does not deserve the 3.3 rating. And you saw multiple cases in this fight where Quintus won us the fight when Ronda would have lost it. Okay, I've got another fight to show you. In this one, I want to show you the value of having Quintus act as sort of a hybrid support plus nuker. Like I said, in live arena, you almost always have to pick two nukers so that you don't get one of them banned and then run out with no win condition in the fight. So the fact that we have Quintus coming in and putting up decreased defense can be really helpful for setting up our other nuker.
It's a slow Sifi.
One of the issues we have in this team is we've got a fully 6-star 3-turn or 3-buff Ward of the Fallen on this Taurus that's going to make it really hard to kill him. Furthermore, we don't have increased attack on Quintus. So this damage is going to be a lot less than it would normally be. We come in, we lock out, and then Quintus is going to hit the Taurus. You'll see this. But there he only hit for about 75,000 damage. He still did good damage, dropped it low, but he didn't absolutely kill it. So let me watch the rest of the fight. Get the counterattack from Taurus, because of course we do.
How do we play this?
Took me a second to think about this one. Yeah, so we take that.
Let's just do that.
And now we get the Georgid to kill the Taurus. So even though the Georgid doesn't have increased attack, because we have the decreased defense on the Taurus, that allows us... How hard did we actually hit him in this hit? Let's take a look at that again. Hit him for 57,000. That's what allows us to actually kill the Taurus. And then if we let the rest of this fight play out, I mean, they're all locked out, so it's going to be pretty easy. We're going to have Quintus come in and kill the Rhodos. This A1. And you can see it hits hard. Look at this. 26,000. No increased attack, and he's hitting for 100,000 with an A1. And then there we go. GG.
Wow, we actually won that.
So there you go. That's how you can actually use Quintus almost like a support, you know. The buff strip and the decreased defense is actually really nice for setting up your second nuker in a live arena fight. Okay, so this fight is full-on support Quintus, which I thought was really fun. Really showing the value of him as a buff stripper, as almost like a support-like champion. So I'm trying to figure out how to beat this player who's 4294, pretty highly rated. This is probably top 100. and they're running a UDK, Necrit, Sifi, Rotos, Harima team, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to take this down, and it's very tricky. So what we're gonna do, actually, here we'll let this go down.
So what we have to do is ban the Sifi. We need to buff strip whichever target that Necrit is protecting with Quintus, and then we need to stun with Stultus. That's what we got to do.
There you go. That's the plan, and you'll see how it goes down.
He's going to be protecting the Rotos.
I don't know why he has a level 52 Harima,
okay,
though.
Interesting. That's weird. I like that because it means we're going to get the decreased defense on
there you go.
Harima.
We don't actually kill the Harima, right? Because we still land the UDK.
Failed the stun,
but we come in and we
Harima,
stun
but we did
both
land
of these.
on the Taurus and the...
Oh, one of the other things I think I've been forgetting to mention is how much the decreased defense can shut down Harima, not just because of ignoring the defense to kill her, but also to completely neuter her damage. And so even though we failed to land the stun, watch this.
The Taurus, we landed on the Necrit and the Rotos, and so now the Harima's probably not hit us very hard. Yeah.
Boom. She does nothing. I mean, she is level 52. I don't know why he's using level 52. But still, it doesn't change the fact that it like absolutely neuters Harima's damage.
Let's see. What are my options here?
See the A1.
Can I take out the Necrit? Is that going to do any good? Let's see what happens with this Rotos.
We didn't actually kill the Rotos, unfortunately.
Ooh, he got the counter attack. That's a little annoying.
But it does.
Actually, no, this will work because we can get the Stultus ahead. We can slam, take out the.
There you go.
The Rotos
and because he doesn't have a reviver,
we still just got the Harima.
We're in a really good position.
Decreased defense, which is going to make life very difficult for her. Do I A3 here? Yeah, I think A3 is the best option.
So you can see the A3 doesn't hit super hard, but it did give me the increased attack.
Yeah, it's just
so
damage. Decreased defense just like neuters the Harima. You know what? In hindsight, though, it might have been a better play to refresh the decreased defense since it does only have one turn left on it. But we might be able to get the Quintus to still go before the Harima. He does. So let's go ahead.
Just refreshing that just to keep her damage down.
As
long as, I mean, we pretty much won this fight once Rotos is down because Harima is really bad against
stun,
Kaja, and Stultus, especially when she doesn't have any increased defense champions on the team. This is going to take a minute. I mean, I don't know if we want to watch the rest of the fight. What you're going to watch is just Quintus come down and, you know, smack him a bunch of the A1s. We're doing our damage. Here, well, should we watch?
Let's just take out the Necrit. There we go.
Let's take out the Necrit, and we win the fight. So, you know, there you go. There's another way where you can use Quintus, not even just for his nuking potential, which is very, very good, but you can also use him as a buff stripper, as a decreased defense champion. And because it's single target, you don't have to worry about polymorph because you can choose to not use it on champions that have polymorph, which can be really nice for setting up kills specifically against the nuker. So, yeah, you know, his kit is very versatile and it has a lot of use cases. You just need to be clever with how you actually bring it in. All right, in this fight, I wanted to show you one of the ways that I've been thinking about using Quintus actually in combination with my bomb team. So let's see if this actually works. But a lot of times you end up with these teams where you have both UDK and Necrit on the team, and they're pretty slow, and you want to try and bomb them down with the Astrolith bomb spread. And what Quintus can do is come in and buff strip the target that Necrit is protecting so that the bombs actually land on them. Let's go ahead and see if this works. I am a little worried that the bolster is going to be too high and my bombs aren't going to hit high enough. But here we go. We're going to buff strip the Wukong so that the immunity is gone. Now we can put this, and then we can spread, and hopefully this is enough. Ooh, okay. So this is one of the issues that we have. Look, the the Necrit didn't die, right? Because the bombs didn't hit hard enough because he was a bolster Necrit. But look, we still get Quintus to come back in, and so it's not actually over. We can come in, use his A3, take him out. And so that's actually really nice because it opens up another very common team you find in 3v3 that you can start taking out with those Astrolith bomb spread teams. All right, so that's going to be it for the Quintus showcase. I hope you are impressed with this champion as much as I am. I think he is a very, very strong champion. I do think that he does fill a very similar role to Ronda. However, and we've seen many instances in this video where he can do a job and come in and win fights when Ronda would have lost them. So I think he does have a lot of value. I do think Ronda is a really good champion. I'm not trying to knock her at all, in particular against teams with like Wukong or in teams where you can block the Marichka passive and you know you're going to be able to do that. I think her block passive ability can be really good. But Ronda is sitting here at a 4.8 rating in arena offense, whereas Quintus, who is arguably a better champion, is sitting at a 3.4, and this just cannot be justified. If Ronda is a 4.8, Quintus needs to be right up there with her because he does just as good a job as she does, arguably even a better job. So Ronda's a great champion. Quintus is a great champion. They're both really good. They both, you know, have slightly better, certain use cases where they're better than the other, but absolutely do not knock Quintus. He is a top tier champion for taking down the arena nukers, particularly in the instances where you need to deal with things like block buffs or increased defense passive or buffs and any kind of buffs, basically, because he strips them all. And, you know, lots of scenarios where things like you don't necessarily want to turn off the passive. For example, I love the fact that I can turn off the damage mitigation portion of Tara's passive while still making him lose all of his HP when I hit him with the nuke. That's quite handy, and I don't want to block the fact that he loses all his HP. So, you know, there's trade-offs between the two. I'm really glad that they didn't leave us in a lurch by giving us an option or no option as a Ronda replacement for people who come into the game later. And I think Quintus can absolutely do her job even better than she can most of the time. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a subscribe, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't watched the PvE showcase on Quintus, you should definitely go check that out next. He is very good in Dark Fae, he's very good in Hydra, and he's very good in Dragon 10. Also, I think he's going to be fantastic against the new boss that's coming out with the City of Cintranos. But keep tuned on the channel, and we'll see if we can bring him in there when it eventually comes out. All right, that's going to be it for me, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.